J.K. Dobbins, one of the starting backs for the Ravens, goes down, season-ending injury. Now we've had Gus Edwards, another running back, season-ending injury. You have cornerback Marcus Peters, season-ending injuries. Three different running backs, all suffering season-ending injuries. And their best corner, season-ending injury. Justice Hill. Everybody that the Ravens were seemingly going to count on in the backfield behind Lamar Jackson. Not out for a month, not out for half a season, not maybe we'll come back for the playoffs. Everybody is just toast. And I had tweeted something about this yesterday that I think was taken out of context and perhaps because I wasn't clear on it, but Ravens fans jumped all over me on social media.
Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Twitter.
There's been all this conversation this offseason and seemingly now every offseason. Has the league figured out Lamar Jackson? Has the league caught up to Lamar Jackson? Is this the year the league solves Lamar Jackson? And Lamar has said, I don't think so. I don't think this is the year. I'm confident that it's not. And I said, well, we're going to figure out real fast whether the quote unquote league figured out Lamar Jackson. And Ravens fans jumped down my throat because they interpreted that as I was setting up Lamar Jackson to fail because he won't have his three starting running backs. Ultimately, if he gets exposed, I'm going to say, ha ha, see. But they say, well, of course, his three running backs were gone. My point is that I think it's unbelievably simplistic, overly simplistic, perhaps even disrespectful to Lamar Jackson to suggest we figured him out. It's not like Lamar Jackson is a puzzle, like a Rubik's Cube, and the moment you figure him out, suddenly he can't adjust. That he just is what he is, and the moment you can piece together some type of scheme to contain it, it's just Lamar Jackson goes from NFL MVP to average QB. I find that disrespectful. Lamar Jackson didn't get this far by being just a set in stone athlete with legs and an arm, and you just wind him up and he's got one speed and one play, and that's it. Because you don't win an NFL MVP that way. You don't have the incredible success he had in college that way. You don't lead your team to multiple postseasons that way. It's not fair to Lamar Jackson to just say, this year we'll figure him out. No, I think we figured him out. What's different? You've seen him on film now for 3 years. He runs just as fast as he ever did. His arm, do you think that his passing's just the same and that it can't improve? That what he was is what he is now, and that's what he's always going to be, and now we've solved him? I find that disrespectful. So my point on tweeting that was, if Lamar Jackson suddenly can't throw a pass, can't complete a pass, can't move the football down the field, can't run an RPO effectively, we'll find that out really fast. We'll find that out real quick. But if he succeeds, if he shines, well, then all those people that said, I think we're going to figure him out this year, need to shove it in their tailpipe. Because he is a work in progress. He can consistently grow. He can improve. And you think you're making gains on him, he might be making gains on you. What this does, this series of injuries to the Ravens running backs, is that it strips things down even more to how great is Lamar Jackson. Really, it does come down to that. Lamar is an incredible athlete. He's become a very good passer. He puts in the work. He's a leader that the guys love to play with. He's a guy the coaches love as well. And if the Ravens can still succeed despite all of this, it must mean that Lamar Jackson is really bleeping special. It must mean that. And look, if you pull the pin on the Ravens and they completely implode, and this is a 4-13 year, well, then look, that's also a referendum on Lamar Jackson. It might be not a complete picture of who he is or what he does, but if they completely implode and Lamar Jackson can't throw a football down the field and they can't, they can't beat anybody and he just looks awful, that is some type of referendum on him. So it is not meant as disrespect to Lamar Jackson because I've got a lot of admiration for what he's already accomplished. But this does end up stripping away safety blankets for him. And now we see exactly how much he has evolved and he has improved and what he can do, perhaps with one hand tied behind his back. The Ravens are a really strong organization with a really good head coach, a dynamic quarterback, and talent at multiple positions aside from running back. I still think they're in a playoff conversation, but it's tough. It's tough to lose this many guys. As I said last hour, your two benefits on these injuries yesterday, one is at the running back position where there has been a history of plug and play. For good teams, good offensive lines, you lose guys, you find the next. You can find success by going to practice squad players, undrafted free agents, veteran castoffs. You can. And I suppose you could do worse than Le'Veon Bell and Devontae Freeman being on your roster. Two is that if there was a position of depth for the Ravens, it is at defensive back. Doesn't mean losing these five guys is easy, specifically these three running backs and the dynamic playmaker that is Marcus Peters on the secondary. He creates a lot of turnovers, and that's one thing that the Ravens are really going to miss. Missing 3, 4, 5 turnovers in the season, sometimes more, because Marcus Peters and how he jumps routes and punches balls out and creates havoc on his side of the football field. You can't help but just feel bad for a franchise that loses this many players. Non-contact, no pads on yesterday, and 2 guys go down with ACLs and season enders. Awful.